Hello everyone, this video is going to be about doing freelace embroidery. Freelace embroidery is embroidery that is done on a water-soluble stabilizer that can be washed away, and all that's left after that is the stitches. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a window screen type function, and then we're going to stitch some lettering on top of it. This is a very simple example of freelace embroidery. Other designs would be more complicated, obviously, but this is just showing you the basics. So what you need to do a freelace embroidery is you need to have a foundation. And our foundation is going to be in the form of something very similar to a window screen. In this case, we're just going to do a simple fill, and we're going to make the spacing of the fill very broad. So we're going to change the stitch type from single to a fill. We're going to change the spacing of the fill to something very broad. So in this case, it's going to be something like 10. You notice that the spacing is now very broad. We want to make sure that we don't have a soft fill edge because we want it to be sharp at the edges. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the file name for the fill, because we don't want the file name at all for this design. So we just didn't select any fill type, and that file name goes blank. You can also just delete it with your keyboard. And then we're going to change the spacing of the stitches I'm having trouble here, to a smaller number of, like, let's say 20. Once you've done that, you're going to have a fill that's much more dense. Now that you have the fill of the density you want, you're going to want to go ahead and copy the fill and paste a new fill to the same location. And this fill we're going to change to be 90 degrees to the other fill. So now we have a window screen. And at this point, we want to figure out where we want to draw a line from the last fill to the first fill, or the second fill, so that we don't have a big jump line. So we have the end point here, the first fill, and we have the start point here, the second fill. So we're going to just add a line from the first fill end point to the start point of the second fill. And this will just be a running stitch. Now that we have the running stitch drawn, we're just going to move it up in the stitch order so it's between the two fills. Now they're connected. So then basically for this graphic, we're going to go and do one last thing, or two last things. I already have on here some text that I did earlier. And this text is going to be what I use for the embroidery. Now you do obviously much different patterns, but I'm going to do this twice. Copy and paste the text again. Then I'm going to move it down. And this now, because there's a foundation here with a window screen, you don't really have to do an underlay for these top stitches. This will be good enough. This will actually serve as the underlay. So Mary Mary is going to be printed on here, and then we're going to put, as a last step, now we want to move all of the underlays, or all the window screen foundations up to the top of the design. So that's going to be, it's going to end up being our stabilizer, if you will, once the water stabilizer is washed away. And then as a last step, we're going to go and copy one of these and copy, and then we're going to paste same location, another fill, but this time we're going to change the fill to a satin stitch, so that'll be our border. I'm just going to use the default satin that's there. So now that we're doing this design, I'm going to do this design in silver thread, so I'm going to change the whole entire design to silver color so that we don't have any changes of thread in the design. So now we have a design that we're going to try and make free lace embroidery out of. After it's stitched out, this is the embroidery on the water-soluble stabilizer. You see that I removed all the jump stitches, and it's ready to cut out and soak in the water. It's now ready to soak into the water. I'm getting the water lukewarm, and then we're going to put this in there. My satin stitches are coming off. I should have put some sort of stabilizer in there. But the rest of it looks like it's working okay. Here's the result after I ironed it a little bit. You can see that the satins didn't stay attached to the edges, but what you would need to do is put a little more structure underneath that. But I think the mesh worked out great, and maybe a thinner mesh would work even too. But this is the first time that I've actually done any kind of free lace embroidery with EmbroideryWare. This is my first free lace object, and I think it's actually a good start.